She walked into that interrogation room like she had nothing to hide. Calm, composed, almost pleasant. She smiled at the detective. She asked if he wanted coffee. Her husband had been dead for less than 12 hours. What happened in the next 47 minutes would become required viewing in criminology courses across the country. Because what this detective did wasn't luck, it was science, and she never saw it coming. Before we get into what happened inside that room, you need to understand something. Most people believe that catching a killer comes down to evidence, DNA, fingerprints, witnesses, but detectives who've closed the hardest cases will tell you something different. The real break almost always comes from a conversation, not a confession, a conversation. Because the human brain, no matter how rehearsed, cannot maintain a perfect lie under the right kind of pressure. And the right kind of pressure looks nothing like what you've seen in the movies. There's no slamming fists on tables, no screaming, no, I know you did it. It's quieter than that, far more unsettling, and infinitely more effective. The technique detectives use is called behavioral analysis interviewing, and at its core, it operates on one simple truth. Innocent people and guilty people don't just say different things, they behave differently, think differently, react differently. An innocent person, when accused of something terrible, typically becomes angry, outraged, insistent. They lean forward, their voice rises, they want to fight the accusation. A guilty person does something far more interesting. They become helpful, overly cooperative. They talk around the edges of the story, never quite through it. And when asked the most direct questions, they answer a question you didn't ask. That's what the detective saw the moment she walked in. She wasn't grieving, she was performing grief. And there is a difference that you can feel in the room. The detective started with something unexpected. He didn't ask her about the night her husband died. He asked her about their first date. She paused, just for half a second, but he saw it. Because when you ask a grieving spouse about a happy memory, one of two things happens. They either light up, even through the tears, because that memory is real and precious, or they go blank, because the memory isn't attached to love anymore. It's attached to calculation. She went blank. He kept going. He asked what her husband smelled like, what made her laugh, what she was going to miss most. Each question designed not to get an answer, but to get a reaction. And slowly, over 47 minutes, the performance began to crack. Not in the dramatic way you see on TV, in small fractures, a detail that contradicted a detail from 20 minutes earlier, a smile that appeared exactly one beat too late, a tear, but only on the eye closest to the camera. He never raised his voice. He never accused her of anything. He simply kept asking questions, and she kept giving him answers to questions he hadn't asked. The break came at minute 43. He asked her one final question, simple, almost gentle. What do you think should happen to whoever did this? An innocent person answers that instantly and with feeling. Justice, prison, the worst possible punishment. Because in their mind, that person is a monster. She thought about it for 11 seconds. 11 seconds, in an interrogation room, after being asked what justice should look like for your husband's killer. Then she said, and I want you to listen carefully to the exact words she chose. I think that person probably has reasons we don't understand yet. Not lock them up, not I want them to suffer. Empathy for an unknown killer. At minute 43, the detective closed his notepad. He thanked her for her time. He stood up, shook her hand, and walked to the door. Then he turned around. Just one more thing. What time did you say you got home that night? She gave a time that was 40 minutes different from what she'd said at the start. He had what he needed. Here's what most coverage of this case gets wrong. People focus on the moment she slipped up, but the real story isn't the mistake. It's the 43 minutes before it. She was intelligent, she had prepared, she had an alibi, she had a story. What she didn't account for was a detective who wasn't trying to break her. He was trying to understand her, because the most dangerous thing you can do to a guilty person is make them feel understood. When someone feels truly heard, truly seen, the mask gets heavy, and eventually it slips. The question this case leaves me with isn't whether she was guilty. The evidence answered that. The question is this: how many interrogations went the other way? How many guilty people walked out of that room because a detective slammed his fist on the table too soon? That's the case that keeps me up at night. Not the one that was solved, the ones that weren't. If you made it this far, you're exactly who this channel is built for. The ones who don't just want to know what happened. The ones who want to know why? Subscribe to Echoes and Angle with Olafunso. Every case we cover, we're asking the question no one else is asking. The next case drops soon, and I promise you, it's worse than this one.